Hey Dan, the Bertha has told me to tell you that if you bet their pie money again and the Chiefs lose, that I have to come over and punch you in the face.
Well, just don't mess up my hair. Yes! Yes! Oh man, it's Friday night, and where would you rather be than right here, right now, talking football? I have some big announcements here. I will be doing play-by-play and reaction for Chiefs Jags Sunday, so make sure you go ahead, tune into YouTube, and listen to my play-by-play. I'm going to have DraftKings up, and I'll go over possible prop bets and any other games that you want to go over. If you have another site that you want me to use instead of DraftKings, just let me know. And I have accounts set up with almost all of them. So I should be good to go, but DraftKings is kind of easy to navigate around. Tuesday, my picks video will come out. And if you are in the sports betting, I have a big treat for you Tuesday. I have George. I'm going to butcher his name, but he goes by AKA the Greek, part of GP. It's GP Wins. I believe it's GP Wins. Maybe the world's best NFL handicapper. So if you're into sports betting at all, you definitely don't want to miss Tuesday's show. It's going to be a good one. And according to my screen here, it is my right, maybe your left. I have Keas with the Bak Talk Brothers. What's up, brother?
Hey Dan, it's funny because it says anything goes. And guys, I saw what Dan was doing behind the scenes before we started with a different group of Berthas, and he's not joking.
You know what? I apologize. I need to step away and grab some coffee before I go on. So I'm gonna step away just for a second. It's off. I'm off today. I'm excited. It's Red Friday. It feels good to get back on the winning track. James says, "Let's go." James, let me get my coffee, and I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah, this should be scary for Dan because I can say whatever I want here for the next 15 seconds before he boots me off.
Well, that's on me, Keys. I was not ready to go. I kind of flopped early in the show, so I'm a little off today. But I'm going to finish strong, though. I'm going to finish strong. I did get both my picks right for Thursday night football. I had the Vikings winning and covering, so I'm pretty excited about that. Let's start off by breaking down Thursday night football, man. Let me ask you, man, what was your opinion of Vikings-Eagles last night?
I mean, the Vikings fumbled the game away. Literally and figuratively, they fumbled the game away. I was about as impressed as you could be in such an ugly loss. Brian Flores' Vikings defense is what I was expecting it would be. So, I'll just say that that offense fumbled the game away.
Well, the thing I noticed was, I know he's from the area, but DeAndre Swift was extremely impressive. I'm pretty sure you remember, instead of CEH, I wanted DeAndre Swift. So I forget how this whole situation was, but I saw that the Chiefs drafted a running back in the first round, and I was jumping up and down like, yes, we got DeAndre Swift. We got my guy, DeAndre Swift. Yes, we got him. And it turned out to be we got CEH, and he was like my fifth running back on the board. And I'm like, what the fuck? And how he looked Thursday was how I thought he would be. I thought he would be that type of player. That was kind of my impression for the Eagles. Let me ask you one thing here that stood out to me, and it's probably not going to stand out to most people because it's 34 points, but Philly's offense, because I noticed this watching New England too. Now, New England does have a good defense. I thought Philly's offense looked a little off. Did you feel that way as well? It looked like it just, it looks like they're missing Shane Steichen, who took over as a quarterback, or I'm sorry, it's head coach of the Colts. Did you get that impression as well, or is it just me?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair to say, and I don't know that it's unexpected, right? We kind of expected
Shouldn't
it on
be.
offense. We expected the defense was going to start slower, and you can say that of a number of teams, but they lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator for some reason on the defensive side. But yeah, uh, that's what it looked like.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. On the Minnesota side, Jordan Addison, 2 games, 2 touchdowns. That's not a bad way to start your career. Justin Jefferson is on a pace is just ridiculous. If I remember just off the top of my head, I think his reception total was 6 all time. The yardage was 7th, and he looks like he's going to surpass both those numbers. And that contract that he's going to demand, and I think Minnesota has to pay it, is just going to be ridiculous. Let's get some comments here. James says, let's go. One Pride 40. Welcome, brother. He says, let's get it. Villain Squad is here. All right. We forgot our ski masks. So if you're not getting what he's talking about, Denver Gator put a comment in, something about the Lion ski masks there. So I thought it was funny. Oh, man, I got Luke G, the Luke G Field Review. Welcome, brother. Yeah, I normally have something to drink in front of me, and I started the show, and I looked down, and I realized I didn't have my coffee. So I'm slightly off today. That's on me. That's on me, man. Dan, it's been a rough start. The last time the Chiefs did not win their season opener, they did not go to the playoffs. So... Yeah, I'm not happy about it at all. But we got a good chance this week in a very, very, very big AFC matchup, and we're going to go into that in a little more detail. You had the Vikes winning. You are down bad. You know what? I went 12-4 last week with my picks. That's pretty good, and I went 9-7 against the spread. So that's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, 12-4 any week, but I got 9-7 against the spread. That's not bad at all. Some love for Luke G. Oh, man. Denver Gator. All right. Yes. And I want to see Lions fans wearing blue ski masks. Amazon sold out. Is this some sort of reference I should know about? Keys, am I off here or...
No clue.
Okay. All right. Keys. No. All right. Let's start with Chiefs and Jags here. Before the season started, I really thought that these two teams were going to be the 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC. I firmly believe that if Jacksonville wins, there's no way that we will be able to make those 3 games up. I think it is impossible. If the Chiefs win, Jacksonville can still be the 1 seed. Their schedule is much easier. They play the NFC South. They play the weak AFC South. Keys, am I wrong here? Like, if we lose this game, there's no chance of us getting that 1 seed.
I mean, I would never say never. That's kind of, I'm walking cliches, but some of those cliches are cliches for a reason, and so I don't think so. I don't think falling 2 games back is that big of a deal, and even if it is, the not having the first seed is not the biggest deal in the world. We've still hosted the AFC Championship game without being the 1 seed, so there's always paths there. So whatever happens. It doesn't matter.
You have no fear of going on the road for the playoffs?
I mean, I think if, oddly enough, I think if you've looked at this team under Mahomes, they seem to play better away anyway. And it might, for a lot of these kids, because we have I think the 5th youngest roster in the NFL, which is surprising to a lot of people, but I think it's the 5th youngest as of opening day. It might almost be better for some of these young kids to get their first playoff experience on the road and get that out of the way, so that when they play a game at Arrowhead, if they do, they've already kind of got those jitters out on the way away instead of at home, because I think that's they seem to play more, players in general on the Chiefs seem to play more amped up at home. That's not necessarily a good thing until they get to the point that they harness that energy, which is usually the second half, which is how you get like the Texans game and the other games that everyone knows about.
You got some love here.
Hey, Holly.
Here's the thing I don't like is that Mahomes never won on the road. So I kind of, and also I love streaks. I love keeping, that 5 consecutive AFC conference championship game at Arrowhead. I love keeping that streak alive. I want to get this ramped up to 6. I think it's really key for this dynasty to play at home. However, that said, I would have no problems if we lost this game and then we had to play Jacksonville again on the road. I would have no problems with that whatsoever. But I do think that because if we get down 2 games to Jacksonville, we have to make 3 up, and I don't think it's going to be possible. I really don't. Let me ask you this here. As far as making up games, I kind of wanted to lead off with this, and I got amped up here. I forgot my coffee, so I'm all over the place today. But let me ask you this here, Keys. Aaron Rodgers goes down. Jets win the game. How does this affect the AFC playoffs? I mean, are you just writing the Jets off? Throw out another question here. Is Rodgers coming back? Does he just want to say, hey, I'm gonna do something different after this year. I'm gonna, host Jeopardy or go to TV or something like that?
Well, from what I've seen, he said he wants to come back, and he seems to be pretty serious about it, because what I also saw was that he's listening to sounds of dolphins having sex, and that's supposed to, don't laugh, this is serious, you can look it up. The sound of the dolphins having sex, the frequency or whatever, is supposed to have healing properties. So that's part of his healing process of his Achilles. So he seems to be serious about coming back, and even suggested that he could possibly make it sometime in the playoffs if the Jets make it that far. I don't think they're going to, depending on who they can get to come in as their quarterback. Again, I would never say never, but it's as close to never as no chance in hell with Zach Wilson leading your team from everything I've seen. So I think it really depends on who they can bring in.
Do you really think they're going to make a change mid-season at quarterback?
I mean, we're only 1 game in. I don't know how you can continue to go with Zach Wilson. You paid what you paid for Rodgers in both draft capital and money, because you saw Zach Wilson screw up a team that was, I know Broncos fans can cite this with me, just a quarterback away.
I think he stays. I think he's going to stick as the starting quarterback for the rest of the year. But I mean, you have to bring in some sort of veteran backup. I haven't checked yet to see who they brought in. I know they were thinking about it. They may even trade for somebody. But I think they're going to roll with I think they're going to roll with Wilson for the rest of the year. And then I'll be honest, it's a good story. I think Rodgers is going to say all the right things. I have a hard time, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm a little older than you, but I remember a time, and it wasn't that long ago. You ruptured your Achilles tendon, you were done. That was a career ender, and it wasn't very long ago. For Rodgers to do that at this stage of his career, I mean, I have a hard time believing. Despite the dolphin sex, which is I've never heard of that. So, man, this is why I love having you on here, Keys. This is why I love having you on here, and this is just beyond brilliant too. Dan's new sponsor, I love that. Denver Gator says CJ put on a blue ski mask after beating the Chiefs and then told the fans to show up at the home opener. Okay, that kind of makes sense. I did not know that. We're pretty young too. Our oldest player is Marvin Jones. I knew you were a young team. It's really Marvin Jones. Okay, I'm kind of surprised. Yeah. One Pride 40 still rubbing it in. By the way, both Seattle tackles are out this week. Yes. Me and Keys will go into that in a little more detail because Detroit and Seattle is going to be one of the first games. Holly says, I'm still not used to Rodgers not being – it's a weird feeling. I predicted Green Bay would win last week, and I think Chicago kind of self-destructed in that game, but Jordan Love didn't look bad. The Packers team may be better than I thought. The Miami Dolphins, hopefully not Tyreek. All right, I'm missing something. I didn't know what I was getting in. Fair enough, Holly. I am super glad you're here.
No, Holly, not the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins, the mammals.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Keys, because I missed that.
The sound of the mammals procreating, not the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
But the Dolphins did score a lot this last week.
All right. Well, yeah, they did. That was actually a really fun game. Really fun game. Denver Gator says, I want to take a bunch of LSD. That's fair enough. Let's get back to the Chiefs Jags here. Let me ask you this here, Keith. Are you on board with me that Jacksonville is the second best team in the AFC that's not Kansas City, or do we look at the Jacksonville Jaguars completely different?
I mean, right now I want to say incomplete because I need to see a few more weeks out of a few other teams before I would feel completely ready. I think probably my biggest question, and this isn't to say it's bad, but my biggest question right now would be the defense over some of the other teams. And so I kind of want to feel it out because I feel like week one, I don't know how much of week one was fluky and how much of week one was legit, if that makes sense. So
week one's always weird in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, week one's always weird. It's always has been. There's always like some fluky game. I see the game that stands out to me as like the weird fluky week one game. To me, it was Tampa Bay, Minnesota. I think Minnesota really, when I watched that. So what happened with me is I watched the Thursday night game. Friday morning, and I kind of messed up on the DVR, so I saw the final score when I was like halfway. I saw the final score when it was 27-7, and I was like, "Oh crap, this is going to be a a really close game, I'm going to go back and watch it. But I was also kind of frustrated because I was like, man, did Minnesota have a chance to win this game? And I just totally missed out on it. And it led me to believe that Minnesota, even though they're 0-2, like that could still be a dangerous team in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, I told you, or I've been telling everyone that I thought that bringing in Flores was going to kind of some of the fluky wins they had last year. Bringing in Flores was kind of going to bring them to where they would probably still stay close to that same 11-12 win mark. Simply because you win some fluky games, you bring in Flores, he's going to improve the defense, which I would say that the Eagles, even if not fans, would respect what Flores was able to do.
Yeah, it's going to. I think it's going to take some time. I think with the Vikings, as the season goes on, I think that defense is going to get better and better and better, and the offense is I think definitely misses. Great, I'm 20 minutes into the show. First,
Hawkinson.
Yeah,
we have Hawkinson. Yeah,
They miss Cook a lot. It looks like, and they'll still adjust, but. I think as the season goes on, the defense is going to get better, and better. They don't make those fumbles though. I mean, I think they win that game. So Holly says Stevie knew what I was talking about. I was completely off. So like I didn't know, but this is why I asked him to come on, Holly. And by the way, I'm so glad to see you here today. You don't want to mess with dolphins in the real world. I have not, to the best of my knowledge, ever picked a fight with a dolphin one Pride 40. So, I mean, there may have been something in my past. I don't know. By the way, Bears are poverty. God, they did not look good. Justin Fields looks kind of lost. They're actually favored, believe it or not, if I remember correctly. I'm hold on here. No, they're not. I'm sorry. They're not favored. I lied to you, but spoiler alert. Yeah, I don't have them winning. Or no, spoiler alert. I'm all ate up today. No, I actually have them winning this week. So there's a clip, reporter asking a Dolphins fan, what's the craziest thing you would do to win a Super Bowl? The lady says the whole team. Oh my God. All right. It's going to be one of these type of shows. Okay. I get it. All right. Wow. So we have different opinions of the Jaguars. I look at that defense and it's got so much talent on that front seven. It's going to be, I think that we get them at the right time early in the season when Cam Robinson's out. Cam Robinson's their starting left tackle, and he's on a four-game PED suspension. So what they have is Walker Little, who they want to play inside at guard. He's going to play left tackle, and then Anton Harrison, he's a rookie out of Oklahoma. He's going to be the right tackle. And I think this is a really big advantage for Kansas City. I think that Kansas City needs to take advantage of this. And I think they need to take advantage of Chris Jones. It was just released, for those of you who didn't know, Travis Kelce is going to play Sunday. So Chris Jones is going to play. Travis Kelce is going to play. Keys, let me ask you this here. How much is one or two of these guys going to play?
Yeah, I think Chris is going to play more than Travis, not because of anything other than if it rains. Travis I don't think he'll be 100%. And I don't know how much you want him cutting, like how much you want him doing if it does rain, like the forecast said that there's a great possibility of. Chris, I'm going to say maybe 35%, 40% of the snaps. I think it's going to mostly be, I think the plan is going to be mostly to be obvious pass rush situations. Maybe if the run defense is getting killed and they have to put him in, they'll put him in like in some crucial downs and crucial drives, but I don't think over I don't think he's going to see 50% or more, um, unless he is the exception to every holdout I've ever seen and somehow has kept himself in like pristine shape, because even pristine shape is not the shape that you come out of after working through Andy Reid's training camp. So
there's a part of me that's like, hey, because he didn't have to go through that training camp, that he's going to be fresh and ready to go, and that he'll be it'll be a good thing. It's less wear and tear. I mean, 17 weeks in the NFL, it's a long time. The one thing me and you see completely eye to eye on is that he's going to play, I think, a maximum. I'll be honest, I think he's only going to be on the field about 20 to 30% of the defensive snaps, and it'll be like obvious pass rushing situations. Maybe if the Chiefs are getting gouged in the run game. Keep in mind, Doug Peterson. For those of you that don't know, I know Keas knows, but for those of you that don't know, when Andy Reid was the quarterbacks coach in the 90s, in that quarterback room was Doug Peterson. He was Brett Favre's backup. When Andy Reid took over as head coach of Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Peterson ended up being Donovan McNabb's backup, then his quarterbacks coach. And then when Andy Reid came to Kansas City, he brought Doug Peterson in as the offensive coordinator. And I think after 3 years, Doug Peterson took over as a head coach of the Eagles. So these two know each other extremely well. Let me ask you this, Keys, because I've watched Jacksonville play a couple times last year, and I have it on DVR. I'm actually going to go through it right after the show. But when I watch Jacksonville just on offense, you can almost take off those teal jerseys, put on red jerseys, and it looks like the same offense. Am I on crack here, or?
Yeah, I mean, at their base, they basically are the same offense. That isn't to say that Doug doesn't have his own little wrinkles and Andy doesn't have his own, but at the end of the day, Andy is still kind of the Jedi Master who kind of has a slight advantage in knowing what Doug wants to do a little bit more. But I think Doug also has an advantage in that he is more aggressive than Andy, which comes back to bite Andy at times. And so they both have their strengths, and this is what, the fourth time, at least the third time with the Chiefs and Jags, but I think maybe the fourth time or more that they've matched up all together as head coaches, faced each other. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one for that reason alone. It's almost like that scene in The Waterboy when the coach steals the playbook, and so both sides know what's coming. So
yeah, I think you nailed it completely. It's almost like an East Coast version of the Chiefs, at least offensively. I think defensively they run a 3-4, and keep in mind when I say 3-4 and 4-3, please note that we're fully aware teams run more nickel, but it kind of seems like the defense, at least to me anyway, with the Chiefs, it's kind of switching over. It looks like more 3-4 formations. It kind of it appears that way to me. I mean, am I wrong here, Keys, or are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I think, and when Joe Cullen came over, I think that you started to see one, Spags seemed to actually give over, a little bit to him. And we saw that, I think, even more so in this draft, getting away from Spags's prototype edge rusher, kind of guys that weren't bendy, who were more powerful, who set the edge, but they weren't speed guys. They weren't able to rush the passer, with speed. That wasn't their game. And all of a sudden you get more bendy speed guys in this draft, and FAU and BJ Thompson. And, last year, Leo Chanel, even though he's a linebacker, he's kind of been used that way a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, they're doing it. Almost doesn't matter, what they're, whether it's 3-4 or 4-3, they have a plan for what they want to do up front, and they're collecting the guys to do it. Um, I think the Jags, both on offense and defense, outside of not having Mahomes, and they don't have Travis Kelce, um, they don't have the offensive line we have, but I think the offensive weapons, the receivers anyway, even if you want to go with the running back, they're ahead of where our guys are because we have so many young receivers on this team, and we don't have, even though Pacheco is good coming into his second year, and McKinnon, is a great weapon for the way they use him. I think the Jags are clearly more talented in the wide receiver room, and I think on defense, I think they're farther ahead, about half the defense, I would say, because I think Kansas City, at least half of our starters on defense are better than theirs, and so that's kind of how I see it.
I pretty much agree everything that you're saying word for word. I think offensive skill position weapons. I think Jacksonville has the speed. Don't get me wrong. I think at Travis Kelce, you have not too many people are better than healthy Travis Kelce, but we don't know. Is he 60%? Is he 90%? Was he held out against Detroit because, hey, look, he's going to be 34 soon, so this is precautionary, or is it an issue where he's going to be severely limited? They got a lot of young talent on that front seven. They're starting 2 second-year players that were first-round picks last year. Devin Lloyd was one of my big-time draft crushes, and if Kelsey's not 100%, a guy like Devin Lloyd might be able to lock him down, and that might cause a lot of problems for Kansas City, because I don't want to see a situation where our receivers have to go against a Jacksonville secondary, which I will say this. I think if you had to say, give me a weak point in Jacksonville, I'm looking at their secondary. I don't have the numbers up, but the Anthony Richardson stat line looked really good. It was something really crazy for a guy that I thought would really struggle. Something like 17 out of 22. Keep in mind, the Colts kind of used a zone read college type of offense where they did not ask Anthony Richardson to do a lot. But I mean, when you're completing what's 17 out of 22, it's over 70%. When you're completing that much your first NFL game, I think it draws some kind of red flags on what might be a weakness in Jacksonville. But their front seven's young, very talented. I think with Chris Jones, our front seven's better.
I would just say, I don't think that Travis, I think that this can be a game. If you look at the Detroit game, first off, let me say, if the Detroit game was a playoff game, I think Travis is 100% playing. He's not playing at 100%, but he's 100% playing in that game. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it was kind of precautionary. They've already basically said he's playing, and, that was 3 days away from the actual game day. So to me, that's a pretty good sign, unless there happens to be some kind of setback, that he's doing well. But I think the difference is, and we didn't need this in the Lions game either. If he's not 100%, you don't need him to get the yak. You need him to catch the ball, which was the issue that Kadarius Toney and other receivers had. So, even if he gets there, he's going to find his zone wherever it's at, and he's going to catch the ball. He can go down. It's fine. He doesn't have to get the yak, and you're going to be fine. And if we'd had that in the Lions game, I don't think there's any question that we win. And so, and you can almost say the same about Chris Jones. How much do you don't need him to get sacks in this game. You just need the threat of Chris Jones to cause the offensive coordinator to double team him when he's out on the field. And then it's your job. It's the defense's job, the defensive coordinator's job, to scheme up other guys to get one-on-ones. And then it's up to the players to win those one-on-ones.
No, you couldn't have said it any better. I think just having yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. They use this word a lot, but I really believe that Travis Kelce, he just needs to be a decoy. He just needs to be out there. If he catches the ball and he's not 100%, just I want him just to fall down. Like, I don't care. Nobody's 5 yards around you. Just make the catch, fall down. And that's all he needs. We're going to go in a little more detail. I want to read some of these comments here. Super Saiyan Lions, welcome, brother. By the way, the thumbnail is awesome. The flaming lion, that is just fantastic. Bears should not be favored in any damn game. They are horrible. No, they're not favored. I misspoke. The Tampa Bay is a 3-point favorite. Full. By the way, if you haven't already, Super Saiyan Lions, please check out my picks video. I break down all 16 games. Later on in the show, Keas is going to get the winner, and he already withdrew his life savings. He's going to bet his whole life savings on these picks, but he's ready to go. But do check out my video if you haven't yet. Just spoiler alert: I do have the Bears winning this week. Slasher, welcome, brother. I do. Let's kind of we'll go back to Thursday Night Football here just for a second, man. Swift is a beast whenever he gets his touches. I'm really not a fan of Brian Johnson, how the passing offense has looked so far. Me and Keith said the same thing. The offense didn't look really looked a little bit off when they were throwing the ball. I'll let you also know this right now. I am not a fan of Jalen Hurts getting. I think I counted 5. Like he got the ball, direct snap, and just taken off running like a running back. I think it's a big mistake. If you remember last year, I think it was week 14, he had to miss a couple games, and then he had to come back week 17 to ensure you get home field advantage. I'm not a fan of using your quarterback like that. Late in the year, sure, but week 2, no. But Swift looked really good. I know Rashad Penny was banged up. That's kind of been the story of his life. If Penny is healthy, he needs to get some of those touches, but Swift had a fantastic game. I think me and Keys, and I'm going to let Keys respond to this as well, but your passing offense looks like it took a step backwards, and I was not a fan of what I saw against Minnesota, and I didn't like what I saw against New England either. It looks like they're a little off so far. So I mean, Keys, were you in agreement here, or are you thinking that maybe the Eagles are just dominant? And what's your opinion?
As far as the passing offense, I think it's kind of a mix, right? You have him coming. You moved on from Steichen, so you know that the offense is going to change. You know there's going to be a transition there. As fans, we kind of get into this like Madden mindset of, you can take one piece out, put another piece in, especially an offensive coordinator, and everything should just start working smoothly week 1, and so that's not how things work. I think that's part of it. But the other part of it is we also tend to be team centric, and we look at everything about our team. If our offense doesn't look good, it's because of our offensive coordinator or our players. It's like we never stop to consider how much is actually the other team's defensive coordinator, the other team's defensive players, right? And so it's like it's a mix of both, because the reality is Brian Flores is one hell of a defensive coordinator. And you can go out, you can find the content, you can find content on YouTube, you can find it on Substack, you can find it on Twitter/X. You can read a lot more about the things that Flores had the Vikings doing. It's not much different than, Spags with the Lions defense, or even Aaron Glenn with the Chiefs defense. Like, you can affect what another team's offense can do. Plus, it's week 1, week 2. To me, the teams that start out hot and then they decline as the season goes on, a lot of times, in my opinion, it's because they shoot all their shots at the beginning. They put too much out there. And, by the time they get mid-season, there's so much on tape that other teams are now preparing to take away all these, kill shots, to the point that by the time the playoffs come along, every team has the blueprint to stop these plays, and the offensive coordinator hasn't had a new offseason to plan enough new stuff. And so I don't think you should be that concerned about it if you're an Eagles fan. They'll get there. If not, then, worst case scenario, Sirianni is going to take over at some point. So
I was thinking the same thing, but yeah. I mean, early on, Keys brings up a good point. You went against Belichick and Flores; these are two pretty good defensive minds. But I have to admit, the first 2 weeks the offense looked a little off. But I still think Philly is, if they're not the best team in the NFC, they're number 2. So Chiefs winning, says One Pride 40. God, I hope so, man. I really, really, really hope so. Are the Chiefs fans to see Taylor Swift cheering from the box like Jessica Simpson for Romo? Shake it off every. Okay. By the way, both Seahawks tackles are out. Hutch is going to. He needs to. All right. You have home field advantage. The Lions fans are just going nuts, and you got 2 backup tackles. You're at home. Hutch needs to have. By the way, when he needs to have a big game, he doesn't need to have sacks. He needs to disrupt. You also need to, like maybe double team Hutch and somebody else has to make a play. But yeah, he needs to have a big game. Also hate these games being on Amazon. Screw you, Bezos. I do want to comment because it's better than last year. But I had problems with the forward back switch. Normally what I do is I try to skip the commercials and then like a timeout, and the forward backwards feature is a little goofy on Amazon Prime. So I shut it off last night, and then I went to the NFL Network and I have it on DVR, but for some reason the final score came up, which kind of ruined it for me. So I have to figure out do I want to deal with the feature on Amazon Prime being goofy, or do I just need to know what the score is and watch it on the NFL Network? I will say this, my Amazon subscription ends in February. I'm not going to renew it. So I'm nothing against Amazon, but it's just the way I feel. Keys, are you a fan of the Amazon Thursday Prime thing? Is it something that's just me and One Pride, or is it something that you're not a fan of either?
I'll say this. What I do like is I like the graphic stuff they put on there, the next gen stuff. I love them highlighting which player is which. As you're watching, you can see this is this receiver instead of trying to scan really quick. I love them showing the routes. I love them showing how long the quarterback is holding on to the ball. All that stuff that they incorporate in there, I love it, and I wish other broadcasts put it in there. It kind of kills my stream, though. My internet starts to lag with it, and I have other issues with it. But that part I like. So, yeah, it's kind of like how the XFL had really cool, ideas. It's just like the execution, for the product they put out didn't quite work. And then the NFL just kind of ripped it off. I'm kind of hoping, some of the others out there do the same. Just, take all these cool tools and integrate it in. Just find a better way to do it. But probably won't, because Amazon has the money, and if they can't make it work.
Yeah, I was kind of doing the glasses half empty and kind of like boohooing on Amazon, but you're right, a lot of the graphics and I like their crew too, like the post game show. I like Richard Sherman is phenomenal on TV. Andrew Whitworth, I actually really like him as well. It's a good crew, and there are some neat things about it, and hopefully you're right. Hopefully some things can take over. What do you think in the Mel Tucker situation? God, when you sent me that and I started reading those articles, there was a whole rabbit hole of stuff I would love to discuss. The whole Me Too. There's a whole thing. I seriously, I could talk for hours on end about this, but it's not really. This isn't really the right channel to talk about that. And I know I say anything goes, but it's just a big rabbit hole of a thing. But bottom line, I don't even want to say what he did, but he shouldn't have admitted to what he did. He should have just been in decline mode. But when he and I'll leave this alone because I don't think he knows about this. So he admits to doing something while having phone sex, which is something most people do when they have phone sex, I'm assuming. And he should have just left it at that. But anyway, yeah, it's a whole rabbit hole. I kind of don't want to touch it, but basically he signed that $95 million contract and it's gone. He wasted so much money over it's going to be a weird situation, One Pride, and I kind of don't want to go on about it because even if he ends up being exonerated, he's not going to get a coaching job. So Seahawks had to grab 41-year-old. I did not know he signed. I know that they were working him out. I didn't know he signed, so that's good to know.
I don't think that's a negative, though. Have you seen Peters that I've seen? He hasn't looked like he's really dropped off. Like where that's
played well last year.
And he even changed positions, didn't he? He moved to like left guard for the Cowboys for at least a few weeks or something like that. Was it right tackle?
He can play. I think he played right tackle and they moved inside, but he can play anywhere on the offensive line. I think it's a smart move by the Seahawks, a real smart move because the way I understand, I know Charles Cross is coming back soon. I'm drawing a blank on the right tackle. I know he was third-round pick out of Washington State last year. It was the first time since like the 80s. Two teams started two rookie tackles, and they both played really well. Charles Cross to me looks like he could be a Pro Bowl left tackle. He looked really, really, really good, and I think he's going to come back. So you get a guy in Jason Peters who's invaluable depth and can play at multiple positions. It's actually a great move, I think. No Gator, but Andy has them prepared for a cruel summer. Yeah, I don't know what to say here. Slasher Swift always has a good game or two, then he gets hurt. Yeah, that was kind of why I thought that when the score was 27-7 and you had Penny healthy, why not use a little more Rashad Penny? I mean, he had his big game. He's a smaller running back. He has an injury history. Why give him? I don't know exactly, but I think it was over 25 carries. And, they only gave Rashad Penny, I think 3. And, look, you're up by 20. Penny's got 20 pounds on him. Let's use the bigger running back. But that's just my opinion. But, yeah, but here's the thing. If both these guys stay healthy, you got something really good in that Philly running game. He still ran for over 200 yards. Hard to discuss Tucker's situation on public chat or platform. Yeah, I know. And that's kind of the hard thing is that there's I wouldn't be able to explain myself without getting what's the word I want to use here? Some of the leftist people going up in arms. I'm gonna leave it at that. Are you familiar with this Mel Tucker situation, Keys, or am I just talking are we just talking about something you're not aware of?
No, I haven't bothered to read into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I tend to, when various stories come out, I tend to just kind of let things play out before I get too deep into them. Kind of like the Matt Ariaza, or however you say his last name, kind of like that whole story when that came out last year. Just, I'm kind of let's let all the facts get out. Let's get the truth out, and then I'll dig into things.
Exactly. I'm kind of thinking the same thing. It kind of feels like that. That's actually a really good situation. But yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. We'll see, Funk. His workload is going to be limited with the amount of backs we have in rotation. Also, think that they had to lean on him a little more last night than they thought they would have to. Yeah, exactly. I would have liked to see him not use him as much, but yeah. I hope he can stay healthy. I always liked Swift. I did too. I really wanted him in Kansas City. I really, really wanted him in Kansas City. I really thought that he was a much better fit than CEH. And I mean, as of right now, it looks like I'm right about that. Man, Funk, hey man, good night. Funk says he's going to catch us afterwards. He's got a long shift at the cocaine factory. So, hey, Funk, man, good night, brother, man. I'll see you again soon, man. You can always hit me up. All my social media links are listed below, so you hit me up anytime.
Does he have to wear a bra at the cocaine factory, or is it just
that's a good question here, Funk. We're going to have to find that out next time he comes out. He may not be a bell cow, but they got to make sure they keep him fresh for games where they know they need him to take heavy work. Yeah, I thought that when they were up, I really, really thought that they would use him a little less and Penny a little more. But yeah, they used him a lot. And if you use him that much, he's not going to stay healthy. But I mean, it was a big win. It's a good thing for the Eagles to go 2-0. So. Melvin Gordon getting called up. What's the over under for him and Lamar fumbles? In all fairness, I loved Melvin Gordon coming out of Wisconsin. I absolutely love this guy, and I thought it was great when he left the Chargers. Thought he was bad when he went to the Broncos, and I remember when he re-signed last year. In training camp, he was saying he was doing everything wrong. He was complaining. He was getting into it with the coaching staff, which hindsight kind of makes a little bit of sense. And then it was like every game he was having a fumble. Keys, correct me if I'm wrong here. He wasn't even active for the Super Bowl, was he?
I don't think so, but he got that ring.
Yeah, he got a ring. I don't think he was active, but Baltimore's kind of in a. I kind of like what they're doing. You know, they signed him to the practice squad. They're gonna activate him. They're gonna go with was it Justice Jones or whatever is going to be their one guy. I mean, Melvin Gordon's probably going to get 5 to 10 touches a game, and is if he fumbles, I think twice. I think they'll just get rid of him and try to either trade or find somebody in free agency, but. If he cures the fumbling problems, I think he's the best running back on the team. I mean, I think he's really good. It's just he can't stay healthy. That's always been his. I'm sorry, the fumbling issues last year is what really kind of kept him, off the bench and then inactive for the Super Bowl. So,
yeah, and those guys out there might not get this reference, but we always used to joke about D-Rob always trying to be like Tyreek Hill and run backwards. Trying to, gain more yards because Tyreek had the speed to do that. And D-Rob would lose a first down doing it. And we used to joke, I used to joke just like Pat just needs to throw him the ball where he has to dive and he has no choice where he's not able to get up and run. Whatever the Ravens do, they need to just tell him, hey, go down before you get contact. If you make it a few yards, you still have the ball in your hands, just go down, give yourself up. It's kind of what they need to do.
And here goes the chat here. Having sex with a phone is just weird. Gator, it is pretty common. So like this is the type of chat that we're having tonight, Keys. It's one of those type of shows, man. Having phone sex. Yeah, he lost a lot of money, and there's so much I could talk about it. But we're in, I think Keys nailed it. The San Diego State punter, Azara, something like that. But
I think it's Ariaza.
Yeah. We all know the real definition of tuck coming. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, I can. Anybody wants this article? It's a little. Holy shit! What the? Oh, it's a big ass fly. Okay. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Keys, what's your excitement stress level for Iowa at Penn State for the whiteout? Not a Penn State fan, but I love the whiteout.
You know what? Our offense is so bad. No, they're showing more promise this year. You know, Dan, I know you don't follow Iowa football, but you know they brought in Cade McNamara from Michigan,
Yeah,
so they actually have a legit quarterback. Um, they have a legit running back. They have legit weapons. They still don't have a legit offensive coordinator, and it comes up in every broadcast now where like the broadcasters are sympathizing with Brian Ferentz and talking about how unfair that he has this clause in his contract that the team has to score 25 points per game on average for the season for him to keep his job. But the thing is, it's the whole team that has to score 25 points. They scored like 17 and a half last year, and most of that was the defense and special teams. So they only have to score one more touchdown this year, you know, a game. And anyway, so you know, there's not a whole lot of stress on this game because it's not one that I expect that we're going to be really competitive in. You know, because every once in a while, Iowa will get a sneaky fast player on offense or defense, but they're mostly corn-fed guys who are more power-oriented than speed-oriented. And so they really rely on sound technique and scheme. But if you get a team like Penn State or Ohio State or even Michigan at times, you know, they can just kill you with speed. So but I'll throw this out here and then I'm done because I was there. Oh man, it's probably been about 15 years ago, 16, 17, when Penn State, I think, was number one or number two, and they came to Iowa and Iowa upset them. And I actually saw Joe Paterno. I was like 3 feet away from him. They were like driving him in a golf cart, you know, underneath the stadium from like point A to point B. So I was super close to him at that time. So that's my Penn State story.
I used to be the biggest Penn State fan. Like I was watching Penn State when I was 4 years old, and ever since I'm gonna call it the scandal, I can't really cheer for the team anymore, and it sucked because I have like all sorts of jerseys, T-shirts. I had a buddy of mine bought me a throw rug. That you know, I just kind of, and it kind of like it kind of killed my college football interest for the longest time because I followed Penn State so religiously over the years, and I don't consider myself a Penn State fan anymore, but I do. The whiteout is just awesome. It really is awesome. I'd love to get more into college football. Unfortunately, my time's limited. So, but we are going to do a ton of draft content. So, Dan might be posting some content on his OnlyFans. I really want to see some competent passing plays, and I'm indecisive. Don't know if Hurts is that way or Johnson Rhodes. It's probably an adjustment period. That's kind of the way I look at it. But the good news is you did win both games. You weren't the best of wins. You get out for early leads. You let them back in. Still, if the Eagles aren't the best team in the NFC, they're the second best team in the NFC, in my opinion. But I'm not sold on your offensive coordinator right now. Slasher, your quarterback sneaks are on automatic first down. And by the way, don't be surprised if this play is outlawed next year. Don't be surprised. But yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the offensive line one pride in the fact that Hurts bench presses and absurd. Yeah, he's phenomenally strong.
It's like 600 pounds, I want to say, that he squats.
Yeah, it's something crazy. He's seriously, he's like might be the strongest dude on the team.
Yeah, that's why I've said, people talk about for the Chiefs, put in Blake Bell or whatever. I said, find the guy who has the best squad on the team and let him do it. And I'm gonna keep pounding this and pounding it. Okay, like Dan with the Berthas. I'm not calling it a quarterback sneak. It's a quarterback scrum because there's no sneaking. Everyone in the world knows what's coming on 4th and 1, 4th and inches, 3rd and 1, 3rd and inches. Like there's no sneak about it. It is just straight up rugby scrum where everyone knows what's coming and no one can stop it.
You're right. There is no surprise, no nothing. I said, I don't be surprised if next year if it's illegal. Don't be surprised. But another thing about the Blake Bell is that Jalen Hurts, I think 6'1", 6'2". Blake Bell's like 6'6". I mean, I think like getting somebody you can actually get down, because like
CEH,
yeah, that would be perfit. Yeah, I mean, all we need is 1 yard.
Right under Humphrey, just
exactly
scoot in under Humphrey,
right underneath there. Why would it? Okay, because it's not a quarterback sneak. I think that scrum they're going to outlaw. I think that scrum where everybody's pushing on the quarterback like a rugby. So yeah,
someone's eventually going to get hurt from it. I'm not saying from the Eagles, but from another team.
Yeah, it's going to. I'm telling you right now. Don't be surprised if next year it's outlaw. By the way, I sent you a YouTube channel, dude. Thank you so much, man. I got to actually. It's you know what? It's kind of funny that you said that because just recently I changed my workouts and I'm trying to adapt because every winter I put on some weight, and this winter I'm going to try to make sure I'm lean. That way I can wear a thong all summer at the pool. So, and that will be available on my OnlyFans. Golf is pretty good with quarterback sneak. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are good. Patrick Mahomes dislocated his kneecap when he asked to go in on a quarterback sneak in 2019. So the Chiefs have outlawed the quarterback sneak. So that's where we're at. So and no, I don't think Ab is actually. It's this type of show. Keys, let's backtrack to Chiefs and Jags here a little bit. How do you see this game going here? How do you see this game working here?
Man, when you asked me about the Chiefs and Lions, I saw it being a shootout and it was a defensive battle. So now that we're talking about a similar game with Chiefs and Jags, I want to say it's going to be a higher scoring game, and I think it's going to be really hard for it to not be. If it's not, then I think that both Chiefs fans and Jags fans should be really impressed with their defenses, even if it is only week 2, because like I said, and I was saying for months, people kept forgetting the Jags are adding Calvin Ridley to this team, and you take him and I've always been intrigued by what Evan Ingram could do. And, he's away from the Giants now, and he started to show that. And you add him to the other weapons they already had on that team. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. We didn't see a whole lot of Drew Tranquil last week. I think, we should expect to see some more Tranquil in this game. Man, it's hard. I'm probably going to have this like a 10-point game, like 34-24, maybe 31-27. So that's 4 points. Somewhere between there is where I'm kind of comfortable. So somewhere between 24-27 for Jacksonville and somewhere between 31 and 34 for Kansas City is kind of how I see it playing out.
All right. I mean, so I know you don't do sports betting. When I did the show with UCF Jaguar on Tuesday, the line was at 3, and he has an affiliation with I think it's US Bet or something like that, and they had the line at 3, and according to him, the line's now 3.5. So what that means is that when the line changes, in favor of your team, it's because people are betting on your team. So there's action being bet on Kansas City, and I think it's in direct correlation to Travis Kelce being healthy. I think defensively, last year Walker Little played left tackle, and he did a good job against Kansas City in the playoffs. But there's a reason why the Jacksonville used a first-round pick on Anton Harrison. We have a guy who's supposed to play guard. He's playing left tackle. We have a rookie on the right side. I think that we'll put enough pressure on Tannehill. Remember, Tannehill had a few. Didn't he have 2 interceptions at Arrowhead last year? I'm pretty sure he had 2. That's going to be the key of the game, is that I think that he's going to have a pick. I think our defensive line is going to put pressure on him. I mean, they're going to score some points. I mean, that offense is loaded. I mean, it's skill position wise. For those of you that don't know, I said Trevor Lawrence would be my pick to win MVP. I think he is going to be NFL MVP this year. I think he's going to have a monster year. He's going to put up a lot of numbers. They're going to win a lot of games there in Jacksonville. But ultimately, I think that we're going to be able to put some pressure on him. I think he's going to be able to make a mistake. I don't believe NFL players are overly emotional. Like when they lose one week, they're amped up for next week. I think that in the professional level, I don't see that. But if one team's going to come out a little more motivated than the other, I think Kansas City is going to come more motivated. However, Jacksonville's saying that this is like, they kind of got the Chiefs circled on their calendar. But you know what? I think 31 other teams have Kansas City circled on their calendar. So that's the way I see it. By the way, on the link below, I have my pick. And did I call him Tannehill? Did I really?
Yeah, first, yeah.
I did. Oh, God. I've been doing – yeah, you're right. After 3 years, I'm still calling him Tannehill. Oh, my God. I'm really bad about that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I keep fucking up there. But do check out my picks video below. I have all 16 games picked out. I have a score of 27-23. So if you are into sports betting, I do think the Chiefs barely cover this game. The over-under is at 51. I have 1 point under. Keas, I think, likes over 51. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if this is a high-scoring offensive game. It wouldn't surprise me if it's 24-21 either. But ultimately, I think the Chiefs will force Trevor Lawrence into making one more mistake than Patrick Mahomes. And that's what I think the game will come down to. Because, look, you have a banged-up offensive line banged up's not really fair. All right, your starting left tackle suspended, okay? You add Chris Jones. The defense only gave up 14 points against the Lions, which were the 4th highest scoring team last year. By the way, Lions fans, they think Ben Johnson's the second coming of Sean McVay. And they may be right. But that great offense of Detroit only scored 14 points. So I think that I kind of like Kansas City's defense to force at least one turnover this game. And I think that we'll put some pressure on Trevor Lawrence. And that will be the game.
Yeah, and 7 of those points came from special teams on 4th down. So the defense actually got it to special teams' hands in every drive, but one scoring drive in the end of the game, and did well enough that who came back almost immediately after watching the defense play without him. It wasn't the Chiefs who caved. It was Chris Jones, and he caved in a major, embarrassing way.
By the way, if you're not aware, Keys is trying to get a job with Chris Jones' agent. Like, I mean, me and you should do a show on how bad his agent dropped the ball and how much money he cost Chris Jones. I mean, this is, yeah. Wentz used to be really good at them too before he got all injured. Yeah. Wentz was really good at those 4th and 1s. When he goes to strip clubs, he looks for the Big Bertha nights. I like the videos, people, and don't be a square. And yes, please give a thumbs up. And for some reason or another, if you're not subscribed to the Bak Talk Bros, get on that. The link's below in the description. When they do come out with content, it's A+ stuff. It's A+ stuff. I've been trying to push Keas to start making videos on his own, but he's not been receptive to my bullying. So the more likes, the more Bertha nights he can enjoy. Hatter's House 710. Hey fellas, go Lions. Jags by 3. By the way, Hatter's House, man, I think Jacksonville is loaded. Like, I seriously do. I think they're about anywhere between 12 and 15 wins this year. I think they're that good. But if you're going to play Kansas City early, you don't have your starting left tackle, and they get Chris Jones back. Look, I mean, seriously, he's nailed it. Look how good our defense looked against you guys. I mean, our defense played really damn good. We played that good against Jacksonville. We probably win that game. So, Dan collects Lane Bryant. What one pride is going to bet on the Chiefs this week? Oh man, look at this. Look at this. Guess who we got in the house here? We got the talent. Gooch, what's up, brother, man? Keys, the Lawrence draft was tough. He constantly called Lawrence Tannehill. This is why you call your girl baby. It's so easy. And I have no idea why I got those mixed up, but I've been doing it for years. And lucky for me, and this is mean, but I think it's a matter of time before Tannehill sits on the bench. I think it's just a matter of time. Gooch, seriously, you know, if it wasn't time related, I would love to do a video on that. I would love to do a video on how that whole situation was botched, how it should have been handled in the offseason. Maybe should have been traded draft day. We could have done. There's a lot. It's just due to time constraints. I'm not able to do that. By the way, Keith, would you want to touch base on this just a little bit here as about what his contract was and how much money he lost?
Yeah, so if I recall correctly, his base salary was like $19.5 million. He rang up between missing training camp and the first game. I think there was somewhere around $3.5 million that he lost out on. And he just signed this new or restructured, whatever it is, deal. And he doesn't get that money back in real money. He has the chance to earn it back in incentives. And so there's like $6.75 million in incentives. And I want to say $1.5 million of that is tied to him both being the NFL Defensive Player of the Year and the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. And so, you know, if those two things happen, all sides will be happy, but it's extremely unlikely that it's going to happen. So basically he sat out and missed everything, including the first game, to be nowhere. I mean, it was a really bad deal. And Brett Veach won this deal so badly. And, you know, you would think after watching Orlando Brown and his kind of green agent do the same thing last year, turning down Veach's deal and not finding one that's even remotely close, you know, this year in free agency, watching Tyreek Hill, Drew Rosenhaus did a great job with that when it became clear. They were almost in agreement. Devontae Adams gets traded to the Raiders. The Raiders do Raider things, and they paid him $30 million a year or whatever it was. And then that completely, then Tyreek said, okay, I'm not taking the 27 million or whatever you offered me. I want a little bit more than Devontae. Brett Veach said, no way. Drew Rosenhaus said, let us look for a trade. He said, okay, go ahead and do it. So you would think, seeing those two play out the way they played out, that you wouldn't fall into this trap. Chris Jones's agents, he has two of them. They're brothers. They both worked under Rosenhaus. They left Rosenhaus to start their own firm. Chris Jones is by far their biggest client. Half their other clients are former Chiefs wide receivers that most of you guys have never even heard of, including the one I mentioned. I believe D-Rob is one of their clients, as is Byron Pringle. Small town guys. At the end of the day, Veach won this so badly that it's even going to cost them less to tag him for next year, and in all likelihood, to tag and trade. And part of that includes the geniusness that, and don't ask me to explain how this, because I still haven't figured it out, but there's a 2024 $100,000 option bonus that has void years attached to it. The 2024 option bonus is the mechanism for the incentives. So basically, those incentives that would be considered likely to be earned this year and would be charged to the Chiefs cap isn't going to be charged to the Chiefs cap. If he actually was to earn them, they will be dead money next year on the 2024 cap. If he doesn't earn them, they just they vanish. So it's really genius on Veach's part, because otherwise it would be $6.75 million or whatever in incentives that would count against the cap this year, that could count against the cap next year if he actually earns them. So all around win for Brett Veach and the Chiefs, all around loss for Chris Jones and his agents.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And my boy Chad, my brother from another mother, says hard to come back after not training with the team and be healthy, in my mind. And you're 100% right. I mean, and here's the deal. He has to win Defensive Player of the Year and win the Super Bowl, and he's not going to be ready to play, and they're going to ease him into the lineup anyway. So for him to hit a lot of those incentives, you can throw 2 games out the window. I'll be honest, week 3, I don't even know that he's going to play full-time week 3. But we'll see what happens after week 2. Gary's in the house, man. I'm convinced O-line coaches around the league hate the Giants and want to sabotage our O-line. Why can't Johnson turn Evan Neal into at least a decent player when he dominates? I'm not sure if you remember who Alex Leatherwood is. A couple of years ago, he's the guy that Evan Neal replaced as the left tackle. And I remember one guy in particular was like, no way Leatherwood's going to be a first-round pick. And he ended up being the 17th overall pick in the draft by the Raiders. And I think he's out of football right now. And this was like just 4 years ago. And this happens sometimes. Sometimes you dominate on the SEC level. You have to realize there's such a big difference. There is such a big difference between college football and NFL football. It is not the same thing. You can dominate on the college level. You can dominate in the SEC and not be good in the NFL. It happens a lot more often than you think. Let me go on the flip side, Gary. Dallas has some really good players on that defense. Some really good players. I would not. This is a guy who I think is going to be a really good football player in Evan Neal. I think he's going to be a really good football player. It may take some time, and don't have a bad game. Seriously, I almost everything that went wrong on a team that could go wrong did go wrong. Dallas's first touchdown was from a Giants field goal attempt that was blocked and ran back for a touchdown. I mean, how often does that happen? I mean, it happens 4 times a year? And so no, I wouldn't say that. But I will say this: sometimes you can dominate in the SEC and not be very good in the NFL. That happens a lot more than you may think.
CEH.
Yeah, there. Yeah. Bingo. He doesn't need to be traded. His agents are morons. Rosenhaus or somebody like that would have taken to 27. Exactly. I didn't want to say much on social media, but I know that a lot of people who even suggested that Chris Jones should have been traded in March were like almost crucified. And I was thinking it may not be a bad idea depending on what you can get in return. This was a good edge rush draft, a really good edge rush draft. And there was a lot of players that I thought would look really good in a Chiefs uniform if you can get something for Chris Jones. I'm one of these people that believes that what you see in the media and what happens behind closed doors are two separate and different things. It wouldn't surprise me if the Chiefs shopped Chris Jones and just didn't get a number that they wanted. But I thought that if you didn't look at the option of trading him, I thought that was just ridiculous. I think you had to at least look. I just don't think they got the offers that they wanted. But you're right. His agents really dropped the ball here. He should have took. But you're right. He should have. Here's a fact for you. After the Mafia guys screwed up the negotiations, if they didn't get this done, all their other clients would make $8.
That's crazy.
If Branch wins Defensive Rookie of the Year, he had pick 6 this first game. I mean, that's pretty damn good. We'll see what he does. But I think Kavion is the bust, though. It's way too soon. Way too soon to tell. I mean, 1 game in year 2. Way too soon.
Let me ask this, Dan.
Sure.
What does Branch need to do to win Defensive Rookie of the Year? Because, I mean, you say pick 6, but let's be honest, Kadarius Toney, we've all seen the pictures. The ball was right there in between his hands, and the ball comes right to you, and it was offensive lineman to beat. And I'm not being disrespectful to his speed, but I'm just going to say I could have scored on that pick 6. Like, I could have caught it, and I could have scored on that pick 6. So realistically, through a 17-game season, what would you say he has to do to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and who do you think are his challengers?
That's actually a great question. So here's the deal, Keys. If he scores a touchdown in the remaining 16 games, giving him 17 for the year, he's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So if he has 17 interceptions and 17 touchdowns, I'm being very facetious. But
we'll go right into the Hall of Fame if that.
Oh yeah. I mean, if he sets records, it's going to be interesting because Lucas Van Ness, you know who that is. He had a strip sack that I think resulted in a fumble. He also had a very impressive sack. I think that's a guy that may surprise people and be up there in the rankings. Oh God, I'm so embarrassed. 122 into the show, and I'm forgetting the most polarizing figure in the draft. Eagles took him, defensive tackle out of Georgia, and I can't believe it. His teammate's Jordan Davis, and I'm drawing a complete blank on his name. That's as of right now, that's the guy who's going to win it. And I cannot believe I'm forgetting his name. I am so embarrassed about this. I actually have to go to look this up because my brain is dead and I cannot think of the guy's name. I just said 15 things about the guy and I can't think of his name. So I have to actually look this up. Jalen Carter. All right. Thank you, Denver Gator. Thank you. That's probably the guy who's going to win it because he's playing fantastic. Branch, realistically, he probably doesn't score again this year. Realistically. I mean, let's be honest. Pick 6 is a pretty damn rare. All right. 5 or more interceptions. 90 to 100 tackles. I think defensive rookie of the year, probably not definitely, but probably has to make the playoffs. That's just the way these awards work. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right, but Detroit would have to make the playoffs. I think he would have to have near 100 tackles. I don't want to say 5 interceptions, maybe a sack or two. But as of right now, the guy who looks like he's going to run away with it's Jalen Carter. But Lucas Van Ness, I watched him play, and he looks really, really good. He looks really good, and we're gonna find out. But as of right now, I'm going to say Jalen Carter's going to win it. What would Brian Branch have to do? He just has to keep playing the way he did. I thought he played pretty decent. I thought he played pretty decent. Keas is right, though. Tony makes that catch. He doesn't have that pick six, but when you have an opportunity to score and you take advantage of it, give him some credit. Give him some credit. Gary has a great question here. Dan, what do you think the 2024 NFL draft class is deep in general, and at what positions? There's a couple guys at left tackle. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Penn State has this left tackle people are just raving about. He's going to probably be a top 10 pick. Chiefs fans may remember a guy by the name of Joe Alt. It's John Alt's son at Notre Dame. Looks almost exactly like him. There's a chance he may be a top 10 pick. There's another guy, another left tackle, looks like he's going to be a stud. Me and Denver Gator were talking last night, and this quarterback draft could be awesome. There could be 6 quarterbacks that come out of the draft that go in the first round. I'm going to give you some dark horse first round picks. I said this last night to Denver Gator. I said this to Luke G. Said I was high on crack, but Shakir Sanders, Deion's kid, I think is going to win the Heisman. I think he's the Heisman front runner. I think that they're going to promote him. I think his dad's going to put him in an opportunity in a position to try to win the Heisman. He's got the numbers. They're getting the attention. It's a great story. Heisman voters do not want somebody to win 2 years in a row. It's just, it's a Heisman thing. It's been that way since number 4. Okay, Archie Griffin. It's been that way since Archie Griffin won. I think it's 72, 73. Heisman voters do not want somebody to repeat. I think he's going to win. And if he wants to come out in this year's draft, he could be a first-round pick. Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback, he could be a first-round pick. Penix out of Washington, he could be a first-round pick. Bo Nix out of Oregon, he could be a first-round pick. Then there's also Caleb Williams. My boy Alex Van Dyke out of Miami has all the tools to be a first-round pick. Dre Moy out of North Carolina, he could be a first-round pick. And I'm probably leaving out 1 or 2 other guys. So I'd say left tackle is going to be big. There's probably going to be 2 or 3 left tackles that go very early. It's going to be a good quarterback draft. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. might be the highest rated or ranked wide receiver to come out of the draft ever. If there wasn't off-field issues, it would have been Randy Moss. It's not Calvin Johnson because he played in a option offense and had something like 23 catches in college. It was something crazy. So there were some red flags about Calvin Johnson. There really was. There's no red flags about Marvin Harrison. This looks like he's going to be the highest rated wide receiver coming out ever.
Oh, and Calvin Johnson played in a triple option team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when I say that, if somebody's telling me Marvin Harrison's better than Calvin Johnson, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying coming out of college, there was some red flags about Calvin Johnson, and there's no red flags about Marvin Harrison Jr. But I don't know if the wide receiver class in general is going to be overly deep. Ohio State's got another wide receiver that they think could be a first-round pick as well. So By the way, Gary, as you well know, we're going to do lots of draft stuff. I'm going to beg Keys to come on shows during draft time, and we'll go over some prospects and stuff. So we're going to be doing a lot of draft stuff here. In order for Branch to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, he has to play edge rusher. Man, Keys, what do you think? Does it have to be an edge rusher? I mean, we know Sauce Gardner won last year. That was kind of an exception, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think in general, it's kind of that year. If you're competing in a year where you have an athletic freak like Micah Parsons, sure. But Micah Parsons isn't a rookie, so you don't have to worry about that. Who's the guys? Dan, you said Jalen Carter. So, what does Jalen Carter do relative to his position? Branch needs to do better than that for his position because, interior pressure, collecting sacks, that's what people want to see. But they do want to see interceptions. They do want to see pick sixes, field goal blocks. They want to see I think the voters are smart enough to understand that PVUs, are still very important and respect that if he's able to produce a high number of pass breakups. So,
yeah, I agree completely. But I mean, I do want to give Ryan Branch credit. I mean, he could have done nothing and nobody would have thought anything less of him. But I mean, when you get the opportunity to score, he made it. So, good job. Gooch says that was not a pick six. It was a handoff from Tony. You should have. This is why you're the talent. Dan, you were surprised about the time when you forgot as fans and a friend of yours, we come to expect it. We start drinking the second. I do have a brain freeze. There's a lot of glare off that shirt, Dan. It is velvet. Now, I have no idea. I got this as a Christmas present, and there is a lot of glare. It's just a special design. So it detracts from my forehead glare, which I was told was super annoying. But that's just, you know what? You just get a lot of glare from me. That's all it is. You just get a lot of glare from me. So definitely giving a credit card. Yeah. He made the catch. Tony didn't. I wish I should show that picture I put on Instagram about the Lions touchdown. It really does. It hits Tony in both hands. One Pride 40 court. Yeah, it's stacked. The record is 6, and it could break this year. It really could. I think I named 7. But there's talk about Sanders wanting to be the number 1 pick in 2025. But I think if you have an opportunity to be a first round pick, I think you take it and go. But we got 7 months before the draft comes up. But we're going to talk a lot about the draft here.
I'm interested, Dan, if there are that many quarterbacks, what happens? Are there 7 NFL quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, losing their jobs? Are there going to be 7 first rounders sitting? Like, what's going to happen? Because it doesn't seem like it could be possible that you're going to have 7 starting quarterbacks losing their job in one cycle. So, what's going to happen, and who would your guess be who the 7 are?
I don't think there's going to be 7, but I think that there's going to be a handful of quarterbacks that are going to start as rookies. I got the teams listed here. Don't be surprised because the Cousins quarterback situation, Minnesota could be a team that I think Cousins is under contract just for next year. I have to dive into that. But Minnesota's a team I would not be at all surprised drafts a quarterback in the first round and says, hey, you're going to be our guy in 2025. Atlanta could have a new starting quarterback if Desmond Ridder doesn't get it done. Who knows? But the Raiders are a team I could see going with another quarterback. Seattle's a team that's really weird come draft time. If they're Seattle gave up a lot of draft capital in the past for players, it wouldn't surprise me if they can get somebody like Caleb Williams. I mean, they may have to give up a player, several picks. Who knows? Seattle's a team. Tampa Bay's a team that definitely could get a quarterback. Honestly, if Chicago doesn't turn things around, they get a new head coach. Who knows? I think that they like Justin Fields, but that's another team. I know a lot of people think that this is horrible, and I know he played really well week 1, but I'm not rolling it out for San Francisco either. The Rams are a team that could draft a quarterback. Arizona, who knows? I think that they're going to stick with Kyler Murray, but you never know. The Jets may be another team to draft a quarterback. Same with the Giants. I'll give you a surprise team, New England. They may not be happy with Mac Jones. I'd be kind of surprised at that, to be perfectly honest. And then Washington, whatever they're calling themselves. But I mean, between now and the end of the season, you never know. But I think there's going to be I really think if there's that many quarterbacks that come out, don't be surprised if 3 of these teams draft a quarterback and say, hey, look, you're going to sit. I still have that old school mentality where I want to draft a quarterback and make him sit for a year. It doesn't seem like that's the way the NFL anymore, but yeah. Nothing against the Chiefs, but I'm glad Cardarius is not on the Giants after opening game ending. Giants fans were critical, but they were not nasty in any of their comments, yet he stuck it. Yeah, Chiefs fans were not happy with him. I'm still mad, but hey, look, it's a long season. He has a chance to make up for it. Defensive tackle is going to be stacked next year. I didn't think about you mentioned that before, I think, Gooch, but yeah. Lions might be looking at a defensive tackle. Keys, who's that badass cornerback you guys have this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure which one you're talking about. In my mind, they're all bad. I mean, in a good way.
Yeah, I think he's referring to the guy that forced the fumble. That was Trent McDuffie. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was talking about Hawkeyes. I was way off.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant Chiefs, but if you meant Hawkeyes, I'm not really sure. Oh, yeah, can you clarify that? Oh, okay, he's talking about Iowa. So okay, I'm sorry. My bad. If Sanders is going to win the Heisman, Bucks will need to beat 2 other Heisman contenders. Williams and Knicks have to be 6-3. Yeah, and I think they will be. I think they'll be 9-3. They play USC in a few weeks, so don't forget Jordan Travis. Yeah, Jordan Travis. You play both ways. You do good. Yeah. Shadir Sanders, what's your pro comp for him? With Giants draft Shadir Sanders to replace their quarterback? With Deion tell Giants not to draft him due to Cowboys? I don't think Deion would mind if he went to the Giants at all. I think actually going to New York's a big positive because it's such a major media market, and a guy like Shadir Sanders could go to New York and make so much money on endorsements. To be honest, I haven't really watched enough of him. From what I've gathered, he's got really good mobility, athleticism. He understands offensive schemes. What I don't think I see from him yet is and I haven't watched enough of him. I don't think he has that big time arm. I think he's a guy that's might have to put on some weight. Trying to think of a good pro comp because I hate to do this because I feel like I'm being lazy when I say this, but a guy with a weaker arm, but kind of reminds me a little bit of Tua. You know, he's a guy who's athletic. I think he's a smaller guy. I think he's like 6'2", 205, 210. Not a big arm, but understands schemes really, plus athleticism. I haven't watched enough of them, so I need to watch more of them. But there's no guarantee he's going to come out this year. Honestly, I don't see the Lions losing a game until the Ravens. Definitely possible. Definitely possible. Williams, May, Sanders, Travis. I forgot about the Duke quarterback, McCarthy at 6. And then you also left out Van Dyke from Miami, who I'm telling you right now that's a guy that that's a first round talent. 2 years ago, I loved this dude. So Bridgewater's not going to be back next year, so it'll be kind of interesting what the Lions do in the draft. They're an interesting draft. Cornerback seems kind of loaded. Megatron was a fun player to watch. If I had time, yeah. Yeah, I'm not. You're not alone in that, Keys. Cooper D. John definitely on the Lions' radar. So me and Keys both like Kansas City. I don't think it's a surprise. I got the shiny shirt. Keys has the very awesome Jason Dunn throwback. I cannot tell you how much I love that. Jason Dunn, one of my all-time favorite Chiefs. Wearing the best jersey that you can get. One of the best jerseys you can get. I mean, I'm a big fan of throwbacks. So is that your only one, Keys, or do you have other ones?
No, I got a Mahomes one.
Yeah. Yeah. One pride, we're going to do a ton of draft stuff. And if I'm lucky, I can get Keys to do some more draft shows with me during the week. So let's do this here because I want to rapid fire this. In my video below, I bring do check it out if you haven't already. Please put your picks in the comments. I give the point spreads, and with the score prediction, you can tell what my prediction is against the spread, and you can also tell straight up. And I'm keeping a running tally. Keys is not into sports betting. I'm not going to put him in that type of situation, so I'm just asking him to pick the winners. Keys, what was your record last week?
9-6. You asked me after the Chiefs Lions game, so I did 15 games, right?
Okay,
9-6.
15 games here. Let's see if Keys is right here. So he's got Pittsburgh wrong, Minnesota wrong, Saints right, Baltimore right, Jacksonville, Cleveland, Washington. I got right. All right, 6-2, 7-2, 8-2. Seattle lost at 8-3. Chicago won 9-3. Denver lost. Giants lost. I got 10-5.
Okay. Well, we can go with that.
All right. So Keys is 10-5. But I just did that rapid fire. So let's get your picks this week here. I'm going to keep track here. So I'm going to give you 10-5. I'm going to redo this here real fast here. Let's see if I got this right here. We'll go with just the losses. See if you get 6. So you got Pittsburgh's 1, Minnesota's 2. Saints 1, Baltimore 1, Jacksonville 1, Cleveland 1, Washington 1, Atlanta 1, Philly 1, Miami 1, Seattle lost. Okay, I'm sorry, Chicago lost. So Chicago lost. Denver, yeah, okay, it's 6. So you were 9-6. So you were right. I tried, Keys. I tried giving you one. All right, Green Bay at Atlanta.
I'm going to go. I'm going to stick with Atlanta. I'm pretty sure I picked Atlanta last week. I'm sticking with Atlanta again, at least for this week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I got Green Bay, but that out of all the games, that was the hardest one. That was the hardest one. That was the hardest one for me. Vegas at Buffalo. You got the Raiders, right?
I actually wouldn't hate that. I know there's some Chiefs fans out there who don't want this team to win and don't want that team to win because, the Raiders would then be 2-0. I wouldn't hate it though, because anytime Buffalo loses, I'm going to rejoice in that. I don't even care. Like TJs are some of the worst fans out there. So, but unfortunately I don't think, who knows? Maybe McDaniels and Garoppolo can surprise me, but right now, even if Josh Allen has a complete fundamental and mental meltdown again, I don't see the Raiders being able to capitalize it. So I'm going to go Bills.
All right. I'm seeing the same thing. This is one I'm really interested about here. Baltimore at Cincinnati.
I'm gonna go. I'm trying not to go with what I want. I still think both are aligned on this one, so I'm gonna go with Ravens.
All right, I got Baltimore too. Cincinnati is favored; they're at home, but I like Baltimore for some weird reason here. Seattle at Detroit.
I'm gonna go with the Lions.
All right. Los Angeles Chargers at Tennessee.
Yeah, this is gonna be a hard one. It's not gonna be a hard one though because the Chargers didn't have a problem scoring. They had a problem on defense, but I don't see Tennessee being able to do much on defense. So as much as I'd love to go with the Titans to beat the Chargers as an AFC West foe, I'm gonna have to go with Chargers in this one.
Yeah, I got the Chargers also. It's kind of a shame because one of those teams is going to be 0-2, and I think they're both pretty decent teams. Chicago at Tampa Bay.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks on this one.
All right. Who would have thought if this is right? I got Chicago in an upset, but if Tampa Bay starts the season 2-0, that's got to be like maybe the biggest surprise of the season. We already got Kansas City and Jacksonville. I'm sorry. Indianapolis at Houston.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Indy. I'm gonna go with Indy.
That's going to be a fun game. You got two rookie quarterbacks going at it. It's a nice rivalry. Hopefully, one that's going to be around for years to come. I think it's going to be fun. I'm actually really curious about your opinion on this one. San Francisco at the Los Angeles Rams.
I'm gonna go with 49ers.
All right. I got the 49ers also, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a close game. Giants at Cardinals.
You know what? I picked the Giants last week, and they had that really bad loss, but I'm gonna stick with them for another week, and I'm gonna go with Giants.
All right. Yeah, I think they bounce back this week too against your favorite head coach. The Jets at Dallas.
This is a pretty easy Cowboys right now, I would say.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same thing here. Washington at Denver.
Interestingly, I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup.
I do too. I think it's going to be a very close game.
I'm going to lean towards Denver, however. It's hard because you don't know. Watching week 1 Raiders versus the Broncos, you don't know if it's two teams that are actually pretty good playing each other or two teams that aren't really good playing each other, and so they both make each other look good. I'm still leaning towards giving Sean Payton the benefit of the doubt, though. So I think it's a pretty good team. At least average, a little above average, maybe against. I just think that Bieniemy is going to have that offense trending later in the season. So, and I think Peyton, is a seasoned head coach, and better than Rivera, in my opinion, is going to have them ready to go again this week earlier.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very close game, but I got Denver also. I'm really curious of your opinion on this one. Miami at New England.
Yeah, it sounds really hard to do because I have a lot of respect, way more than most Chiefs fans because they're filled with hate, but I have a lot of respect for Bill Belichick as a head coach and a defensive mind. But in my mind, I think this is going to be a fairly ugly loss for the Patriots. You know, when Tyreek Hill was in Kansas City and had Mahomes throwing to him, I might talk myself out of this. You know, Belichick was able to bracket him and do some things to take him away, even with Travis on the field. The problem is Jalen Waddle is so much more faster and more athletic than Travis is. So even and you know, we've seen what this offense is with those two guys on there out on the field at the same time. I don't think Belichick can fully have an answer for that aspect of it. You know, and I'm still not 100% sold on that offense's ability to be able to keep up with the pressure that the Dolphins offense could put on New England's defense. But at the same time, I think if there is a mind who at least understands what Tua's weaknesses are, and even more so, right? You got Bill O'Brien, just came from Alabama. Where did Tua play? He played for the Dolphin or for Alabama. So, you know, Nick Saban knows all of his weaknesses. Bill O'Brien probably knows all of his weaknesses, no matter how long he's been there. He was there. But, you know, I don't think Bill Belichick needed that help. But at the end of the day, I think Belichick knows Tua's weaknesses, and he does have them. And Belichick knows how to force him into those weaknesses, maybe better than any other defensive mind in the game. I just think at the end of the day, it's really hard when you have Tyreek and Jalen on the field at the same time to hold that offense down. And I don't think New England's offense is capable of catching up. So
all right,
it pains me to say, long-winded, but I'm going Dolphins.
All right. And then the double dip on Monday night, two divisional Monday night games. I think both these games are going to be a lot of fun. Saints at Panthers.
Another hard one. I'm going to go with Saints.
All right. And Browns at Pittsburgh.
You know, I picked the Browns over the Bengals. I believe I picked the Steelers.
Yeah. He did.
And they lost.
Yeah.
I'm going Browns again this week.
So let me ask you this here, Keys. This is really hard because we're both Chiefs fans, but how is Chiefs Jaguars a noon game and Saints Panthers Cleveland Pittsburgh on Monday night, especially Saints Panthers? Like, what game would America want to see more? A rematch of the AFC divisional round, or two teams that didn't make the playoffs last year? I don't get that. So like that's my complaint here.
Yeah, I guess the Chiefs already got maxed out on those other games, and part of that is because the NFL wanted to finally get that Mahomes versus Rodgers matchup, but you know the script writers are just not letting us have that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to UCF Jaguar. He brought that up. He's like, you know, why wouldn't this? How can this not be a primetime game? Is it an anti-Jags thing? And I said, I don't know what to tell you. I would much rather see. I think America would much rather see Jags Chiefs on Monday night than Saints Panthers. But yeah, it's a tough one. Next year's draft. Yeah, we're going to do a lot of draft stuff here. You know this. Cameron Ward, quarterback, Washington State. You know what? I've heard a lot of good things about him, Gary. I have not watched him play yet. I am so sorry. We're going to talk a lot about him because I know I've heard some talks. It's kind of funny because even though the Pac-12 is going away, Cameron Ward, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and I think it's Michael Penix all four of those quarterbacks have been talked about as first round picks, and Caleb Williams, of course, has a lot of number one talk overall. I haven't really watched him play. I will watch some Washington State play sometime this year, and but he's a guy that he's going to have to do good, because you're not going to be on TV a lot if you're Washington State. He's got to do good in the Senior Bowl. He's got to ace the combine process, and I'm still not, even though I've heard a lot of talk, I think he's a guy that's not going to go in the first round. Cooper Desha, I don't know who he is. I'm sorry, One Pride, I don't know who he is. I'm convinced Giants head coach Daniel is trying to ruin Daniel Jones. Why else would we leave him in when it's 40-0 in the fourth quarter? I have an opinion on this. I'm gonna pass this one off to Keas here. Keas, what's your thoughts here? Why was Daniel Jones playing in a 40-0 game in the fourth quarter?
I don't know that I have an answer for that, other than that Dable had something that he wanted them to work on. And that's simply it. It's about the best thing I can come up with.
Yeah, okay, so Gary, I'm going to give you an answer you probably don't want to hear, but I really just was convinced that he wanted Daniel Jones to score at least one touchdown. And I think that what you do is, in a situation like that, usually when you're up that big, who are you playing against? You're playing against backups. So you have a chance to succeed. So I think the reason behind leaving him in is to give him some success, or to try to get him to something that you can build off of. And when he didn't have that, I think it's a bad move that backfired. But let's say he would have scored at least one touchdown. You can go into the practice for the week, and you could say, okay, hey, look, we did this right, even though it's against backups. You can leave that part out, and you can build the kid's confidence up. NFL coaches hate seeing a zero. So I'm not really surprised. I don't think they're trying to ruin him. I think they're trying to build him up, because you gave a 4-year investment in him. But don't be surprised if the Giants do draft a quarterback if Daniel Jones isn't the guy. I'm not convinced he was. But the contract is Giants friendly, and you may have to eat some money. But if on the flip side, if it pans out, then he's going to be great. I did a video on the Giants, and a lot of Giants fans were upset because I said that I wanted to see more out of Daniel Jones. Well, this is kind of why. I have a feeling Dable left Daniel Jones in there because he's tanking for the draft and wants to draft a quarterback. I don't agree with that, which leads me to believe he will be fired. Well, first of all, Dable won Coach of the Year. I've seen you win Coach of the Year and then get fired. It happens. I don't think it will unless circumstances get really bad. You signed him to a 4-year deal. You could draft a quarterback, but I think that this year and probably next year, Daniel Jones is going to be the guy. Now, I say probably next year. You could draft a quarterback and then ease him in, and then maybe like at the bye week start him. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Giants draft a quarterback. But Daniel Jones is going to be a guy for this year, probably next year. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I 100% believe that teams don't tank. It's one game. A lot of weirdness happened in that game. You're playing the Cardinals. I expect to win. Keys said that you can bet your life savings on the Giants to win. So there you go.
Yeah, I didn't say that, but I will say this. You let Daniel Jones walk, and maybe you trade for Zach Wilson if you want to tank. You don't bring Daniel Jones back and pay him if you don't at least believe somewhat that you can win with him, especially if you're trying to tank. You don't make that trade for Darren Waller if you're trying to tank. Listen, it's different for us because we've now seen 4 or 5 years of Patrick Mahomes, and you've seen enough that you can kind of tell when quarterbacks have that it factor. Daniel Jones doesn't have that it factor, but he's a good enough quarterback that, you can win with him. Can you win 14 games? I don't think so. Not unless you surround him with Joe Burrow's talent, uh, you know, at receiver. And even then, I think it's still not that easy. So I don't see in any way that there's any evidence that they were trying to tank, because I think if you're tanking, you let them walk. You don't trade for Waller. You bring in like a Colt McCoy, or a Carson Wentz, or someone that that you're gonna end up drafting someone and replacing them with. You don't invest in Daniel Jones, and part of that investment includes trading for Waller, because definitely trading for Waller was about trying to help Daniel Jones out. So I just don't see it.
Yeah, you signed Dexter Lawrence to a big time deal. Yeah, I you had some young players in the secondary. Look, listen, there's a lot of weirdness that happens week one. I've seen the Patriots lose big week one and go on to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying you're going to win a Super Bowl, but there's a lot of times that weird things happen week one, and things end up working out. So I mean, you got 16 games, Gary. I mean, don't give up yet. I mean, it's going to be okay. You got a winnable game on the road. It's a winnable road game. So you're in pretty good shape. So don't give up yet. It's a long season, but I think Keys nailed something, that there's an it factor, and I've not seen it in Daniel Jones. He had a great game. He had a great game in the playoffs last year. That was a great game, but I pointed this out in my Giants preview video, and I had a Giants guy tell me I was a Daniel Jones hater, and he did not like it. But I was like, listen, when you throw for under 32, I think he threw for 3,200 yards. When you throw for less than 200 yards a game and you're an NFL starting quarterback, in today's game, it's just not good enough. So I kind of agree with Keys here that he doesn't have the it factor. There's a good chance you could draft a quarterback, but your season's not over yet, Gary. Don't give up hope. You have a lot of good things there. You have a lot of. I really believe this. You have a lot of good things in New York. You really, really do. So that's kind of where we're at. Listen, I'm going to wrap things up here. Before we wrap things up, Keys, you have any final thoughts, words, anything that you want to go over before we end the show?
No, I just think that there's a lot of reactions right now to week one. It's going to take half a season before, we can start to really understand, was week one a fluke? Was it a premonition, of what's going to come this season? So, that's all I would say is whatever happened week one, whatever is going to happen week two, and listen, it's harder. I think it's harder to say to Giants fans because 40-0,
Yeah,
it's hard to see any kind of hopes for anything positive to come out of it. But I mean, listen, fluky things happen, and I think Dallas is good enough that maybe if you're trying to be optimistic, you say it's part fluke and just part talented team who is much farther along coming into week one than the Giants or other teams are. Some of it just may be that for whatever reason Dable and Kafka were comfortable about some things that they were just completely short-sighted on. Some of it could be they're trying to amp up the offense now in season two, and especially trying to feature Waller, and they're working through things. But I do think like you said, Dan, I don't think there's any reason to panic for them yet. I still picked them. I'm high on them. So we'll see what happens. Don't overreact over one game or two games or a quarter of games, and stop living by those streaks.
Yeah, it's just one game, brother. You'll be okay. We both have you guys winning this week. So just a friendly reminder before I end the show here, just a friendly reminder, I will be live doing play-by-play and reaction for the Chiefs game. I'm going to have DraftKings up, so I will be able to give you up-to-date numbers on all the rest of the games. If you have a prop bet that you're taking a look at, go ahead and drop that below in the chat, and I'll keep tabs on it. It's a good time doing play-by-play and reaction, so check out me Sunday. And if you are into sports betting at all, you don't want to miss Tuesday's show. I have one of the best handicappers, NFL handicappers in the world, maybe the best in. There may not be somebody better than the Greek who's coming on Tuesday when it comes to betting on the NFL. You don't want to miss Tuesday's show. And with that, man, we're going to end it. Keys, you have a fantastic weekend. I hope that you're in the chat Sunday when I'm doing play-by-play for Chiefs and Jaguars. And hopefully next time we get together, we are 1-1. Everybody have a great weekend. And hopefully I see you guys in the chat with my play-by-play and reaction with for Sunday. So have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys hopefully Sunday.